members are Lombardo, Mosley, Malik, Neal, and Connor. We have all committee members present whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Welcome to the Parks and Rec Committee meeting, and I'd like to first start off with the approval of minutes from our last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Meeting's passed. Minutes passed. So today we do not have any legislation in front of us, but we are here today to discuss the Copley Road Soccer Complex and other issues surrounding that. This was brought forth by Councilman Neal. Everything from maybe an understanding of the agreement with the city to possibly maintenance or tournaments or just how the complex is run. So Mr. Neal is obviously here, and I'm going to turn it over to him for any further questions that he may have regarding the complex. Mr. Neal?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I'd like to do is turn it over to Mr. Lover so he can share the information that he shared with me. You know, the questions were pretty specific documentation over a 10-year period for everyone to see. And the question was the railroad fields. We know that in the past, inner city soccer had been charged as much as $3,000 for the fields. So there was a question in regards to that. There was also the question of just the whole contractual agreement and how long was it going to last. So Mr. Lowe has the answers to those questions, so I'll turn it over to him now so he can share that information.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Neal. I had sent all of council an email, I believe it was a couple weeks ago, outlining what the practices were with the West Akron Soccer and Copley Road Soccer. As the email stated, in 2004, when the fields were constructed, the past administration, they decided to allow West Akron Soccer to do the maintenance of the facility. In return, they were given a mower and a gator, which basically a utility vehicle, to do that maintenance. Plus they were paid, I believe it was $7,500 or $7,800 a year to do that maintenance. In return, they were able to run the concession stand at that complex, and they were actually able to run tournaments out of the concession stand. And those fees brought in from the fees that they collected from the games that were played out there and from the concession stand was to help to offset the maintenance cost. And down in the email that I sent is their agreement with the city ended in 2022 last year. We took over maintenance of that. And on the back page, it showed numerous arrangements with numerous organizations over the years: Patterson Sports Complex, Logan Field, Firestone Stadium, obviously Copley Road, Prentice Field, Lane Field, and Prentice Park is still being done by Kenmore Youth, and Erie Island, we take care of the maintenance there also. So I think COVID unfortunately had a detrimental effect on a lot of these youth organizations when they weren't able to play games. Some of the players didn't come back. They weren't able to maintain these complexes, so we assumed the responsibility of these complexes. With that being said, inner city soccer was charged a fee to play in those fields. We made a decision as of this year that the permit fee of $55 a game, which is paid directly to our Akron Recreational Bureau for these, no matter who you are, we were going to actually waive those this year, but also with the direction of council, and obviously Council President Somerville pushing for us to remove 2 of the baseball fields at Lane Field and construct 2 new soccer fields for inner city soccer to use. Other organizations could use those fields at Lane, and this is just the first year, so the City of Akron Parks Maintenance Program put in those 2 fields, removed 2 of the baseball fields, and that inner city soccer actually just sent us an email today, and some people may have thought I solicited that, which we did not. I mean, it was pretty timely,
Yeah.
how well it's working out at Lane Field. So he has run a couple of camps out there. I believe he's requested 28 separate permits for Copley Road Soccer to play games at that complex. We have talked to him about doing some other events there, and as far as the fees go for that field, I think we're all in agreement if some organization was going to run a tournament and the field was available and they were going to charge a fee, then we would have to charge a fee also. The way it worked before with all these organizations, when they maintained these fields, they paid, or they did it with volunteers. They cleaned the bathrooms. They bought all the paper products needed for those bathrooms. Now, we have accrued all those costs, so we are cleaning those bathrooms, we're stocking those bathrooms, we're mowing those fields, we're lining those fields. And as you can see in the email below, we did get some prices for contractors to mow and line those fields, and it was quite expensive. So it was around $87,000 to do that, so we decided to take it on ourselves to do that maintenance. I have to give park maintenance credit. They went out and they did a business case, and we worked with finance to buy some new equipment. When this complex was taken over, the equipment wasn't, 20 years ago, wasn't it like today. So Parks Maintenance bought a couple of what they call wing mowers. They mow 104 inches at one time. It would have taken a person probably more than a day to mow those fields. Now they can do it in about a half a day, all those fields. So with the new equipment, if we try to do it with what we had 20 years ago, the business case would not have been there. And we want to try to keep these costs lower for the teams that are using our fields. Intercity Soccer, we've been involved with them and talked to them, and that's what Lane Field is. It's been so great because he knows if he would practice at Copley, it wouldn't be a long-standing thing. The grass wouldn't hold up, and then when you go there to have games, it wouldn't be in good condition at all. So with that, the same with Patterson Ball Fields. North Akron had a contract. They're no longer there. We are doing the maintenance, and whoever wants to use one of these complexes, whether it's Copley Road or Patterson or Lane, they have to go through the Akron Parks Recreation Department, and then they will work with them if it's available, and we will rent them out. We looked at Firestone Stadium a couple years ago and the maintenance that we were putting into it, and it was a big capital project. But now that we have turf, we're getting all kinds of requests to use those fields, and it makes it a lot easier not only on the maintenance, but also on the availability of those fields with lights. We have talked to numerous soccer, and Intercity was one of them. Should we look at turf at Copley Road? And they were very much against it. It was too hard on the players, a lot of injuries. They really liked the natural grass. So by going to just games only and giving them alternate places to practice, I think so far it's been a win-win. And with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you for that detailed response, Mr. Ludlow. That was awesome. So, yeah, if there's any questions from committee members first, which, Mr. Neal? Oh, I see only Councilwoman Linda Amobian. Your question, please.
Not with the minute, did you want to?
Oh, you know what? I see Russ's hand. It was camouflaged in the background, so, okay, Mr. Neal.
Mr. Chairman, mine isn't a question, mine is just a comment. So please go ahead and take Councilman Mobley.
Okay, we'll take Councilwoman Mobley. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Little. What I'm trying to understand now is that, so the middle person that was involved in this is no longer engaged in this process?
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, correct, yes. It was It was West Akron. Go ahead, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And anybody that wants to use these fields would have to pay?
Anyone that would request to use those fields would contact our Akron Park and Rec Department and request a permit. And then there's a fee for that permit, yes. And I mean, we have to issue 55 per game. So when they show $55 per game. And so when they show up, that field's game ready. It's lined, everything's there. We'll open the bathrooms, and then when the game's over, we'll lock up the complex, you know, check the bathrooms if they need cleaned or restocked. So the organization, all they have to provide is the two teams, obviously the ball to play with, and the referees. And then we supply the complex, yes.
And strictly for playing and not for practice or anything else?
No, I mean, we have enough fields around. It seems, unfortunately, with all of play of all youth athletics, we have plenty of complexes for people to play on. And with Lane Field renovated, it helps tremendously. But there's fields that don't get used every day because they're open for play. We just don't have the need or the request for them currently.
Now, was this the intent of this legislation was passed many years ago?
Well, when they built the complex, the past administration, they built a lot of these complexes at the same time. They built Lane Field, they built Patterson, they built these complexes, and I believe, and I wasn't part of the city at the time, I believe they thought to hire all these people and put all this on was going to be a difficult task. So they decided and I think this model basically started in Ellet. Ellet football has been managing that field and that concession stand for years. And what I remember, I think they modeled it after that. Personally, I was not at the city, but I was part of North Akron baseball at the time, and I could tell you, when they asked us to take over those ball fields, I was working with the maintenance of it, and we got prices from landscapers too. And one landscaper says, well, we can do it for $1,000 a mowing. And the next guy says, well, we have to do it 28 times. That's what we figure when we have prices out. And when the city was offering us like $8,000, and I knew it was going to be $28,000, the math didn't add up. But they said, by running tournaments, and if you grow your organization and get volunteers, you can make it work, and we did make it work.
Thank you. I don't mean to cut you off. Councilwoman Mobian, if I could just interrupt here. We want to stay on schedule, and I want to make sure Councilman Neal gets all his questions in, so we can come back to you in a second, okay? Is that all right? Thank you. Councilman Neal?
Not a question, but again, a comment. Something I want to, if I hear Mr. Little right, you said $50-something per game?
55, sir.
Okay, at a soccer tournament, they play God knows how many games. Wouldn't it be more economical for at least charge those outside of City Akron per game if that's what the others do? But for those that are inside, that are residents, tax-paying citizens, if they rent our field, let them rent the field, but not per game, because at a soccer tournament, you could have God knows how many games. That's what that are on top of the hill that play. So I just want to, this is what I like, Mr. Chairman. We have to do a deep dive into how we support athletics with our fields holistically as a city and a school system. It's ridiculous that we only have one qualified rubberized track in the high school system. Now, especially now since they gave us one for Lane Field. We got to look at what is our infrastructure like to support not just our athletes, but our recreational side. So I appreciate what Mr. Lovell shared. But $55 per game is going to get us right back where we were. Right out the field.
Okay.
Find out what it costs for us to cover that cost to rent out the field. Don't charge it per game.
Sir, I'll get back to you. I'm not exactly sure if someone would run a 2-day tournament and have it all day, that they actually charge $55 a game. So let me find that out, okay? And I'll get back to you. As far as the track goes, we did talk last week, you're right, and we're looking into putting that into the capital budget to get that track at Lane Field repurposed or refurbished, sir.
Yeah.
So you got to give me some time on that one.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to say one thing as far as renting fields, and I know we were talking about soccer, but when it comes to baseball, like to rent the field every game, you know, you have to line the field. So that I could see why it's 55 or whatever the case is for baseball. That's all I wanted to say. Councilman Shamus Malik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Luddle. And first of all, just want to thank everybody for us having the discussion, because it's helpful to just, especially the information, Mr. Luddle, that you shared, that Word document, I think really helped me wrap my head around it. I don't think I have a ton to say other than I did have one question. I understand the point that we want to protect the grass here for actual games, but what kind of are there other city park land where people can practice? Like where would people practice? I know Lane Field is one example, but are there others?
They have a field at Hardesty where Intercity used to use, and then we have a couple fields down by the dog park that they would use. Just north of the dog park, there's 2 fields. I believe there's other ones around. Off the top of my head, I can't think about it. But I don't think that we have a shortage of fields when it comes to requests, I could tell you that.
Okay.
But we'll get you a list of all the fields.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then the other one was, I think there was something like 20 or 25 permits issued this year for Copley Road.
Well, that was just for Intercity.
That's just for Intercity.
So other people have been using the fields. Like the Burmese community had a huge tournament 2 weekends ago.
Yeah.
And they were there, I think, just Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
So there's been, it's been highly used, but just not, Intercity's had 28 permits issued to them.
Okay, yeah, I guess the question I was just going to ask is, like, anecdotally, not asking for exact number, is the usage now like up over, a couple of years ago, or have we seen a decline?
I believe it's down,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, this has been enlightening. I spent a lot of my childhood at Copley Road Soccer Complex because I was not very athletic, but my brother played varsity all 4 years at Firestone.
And one other thing I left out, I don't know if I put it in there, Mr. Neal, but Akron Public Schools that play at Copley Road, they were not charged a fee either, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Very
You're
good.
welcome.
Very good. Councilman Fusco?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the data in reference to the history, basically, of the Copley Road facility. And if one looks at it, the history basically is, and especially in the early docs, is that this is the outcome of a JED with Copley, just like the JEDs with Springfield as well as Coventry. Baseball fields were constructed off of Main Street for Coventry baseball, in which we were the same type of agreement with the little leagues out there that we had with Springfield. Springfield, we built a facility off the JED funds that were received with the agreement that Springfield and Akron would be playing out there together. However, though, the Springfield folks would be the ones kind of in charge of that facility. Same thing with Copley, but it was soccer. It wasn't baseball. It was soccer with them. So that's kind of like the history, which I think is important. And a lot of that, and that was a great model that we had, as Mr. Little had mentioned, that unfortunately it's due to COVID, and it's a tough business. Volunteering, whenever you'll see someone who's ahead of an organization and they're full speed ahead for 5 or 6, 7, 8 years, and then they move on, and then somebody else comes in, and maybe their organizational skills aren't what everybody hoped. But the other piece of this is, and why I believe it's so important that we keep these as gameplay only, is that the traveling teams these days, they have high expectations, and also what they expect, and that's more and more. We don't see so much the neighborhood baseball or what have you. It's more travel these days, and which is good for our economy as well. But having a facility like this to match up with places that you drive down the expressway and you can see some of these townships, these little areas, they have these gigantic facilities, and that's what makes it easy to manage for these folks who put on these tournaments. So I think there's an expectation in terms of cost for that piece of it. And I know that, you know, a lot of this is based on the inner city group and so on and so forth, but it seems as though they're good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, okay, I just want to be respectful of the upcoming committees, Public Service and Public Safety. So we did not have any legislation coming before us in this meeting. We called a special meeting. We do have one more question. Mr. Neal, just one more question, please. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Moore, you get a chance to ask first?
She asked,
Mr. Chairman?
well,
Yes.
her hand isn't up.
Mr. Moore, you get a chance to ask first? I just got 2 quick comments.
Go ahead with your 2 quick comments.
Okay. One, what made this soccer complex different from others was that the organization running it was collecting all the fees. It wasn't coming through the city. With West Akron, South, I believe in Passion Park, the outside organizations building those fields, the money came through the city. It did not go directly to the organization. That's what made this so challenging, is that it went to the organization. There was no documentation, no record keeping on the finances. This is what I would like to suggest. When we talk about making things sustainable, all the groups that, because Mr. Little told me about some of the challenges sometimes when some people rent the places, their housekeeping may not be up to our standard. I think those groups that are vested, inner city soccer, the Burmese group, any groups that play soccer, let's bring them together and form a committee to have oversight of that field. So that when there's our events, they work those events, and the city can work out to where they get some of the revenue to help the organizations. Mr. Lowe, when I talked about when you went the census stand with West Pee-wee and West Liberty, there was a challenge where the group that had responsibility for the field, they wouldn't always open up the concessions. So that folks would be down there wouldn't get concessions. We could partner with our food truck people and put them on the schedule, let them know when there's tournaments, and they can determine if they want to supply something there and charge a small fee and give that to the groups. I think we have to quit operating as silos and bring those people who are vested so that we can enhance our product offering. Because like Mr. Fusco said, youth athletics is a huge draw, a huge market, and we are not benefiting from that. And with all the development in Cleveland and now in Canton, we can position ourselves for some of these tournaments because folks that come to Akron would now have the ability to go see some of the amenities at the Hall of Fame or the Rock and Roll, the football, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the meeting.
You're welcome.
I want to put in the proper context the talents of the soccer compared to all other groups, but we definitely need to take time to look at how we can make those that are participating in these sports who are vested to help the city manage fields thank you.
Thank you so much. One other comment, Mr. Lowe?
I just want to end with this. Our goal always is to have the Akron residents, the Akron youth play in there. So Akron, the Park and Rec Department always reaches out. Inner City gets first choice. APS gets first choice. Please let us know when you want to use these fields before we open it up to everybody else. I just want to make that point. Yes, we could maximize these fields and get more play, and that's what we want. We want to see kids, no matter where they're from, playing youth sports, but we want to give the opportunity to our Akron youth first. So
Right. Well
we do our best to give them first opportunity.
Right, very good. That is true. Just coming from North Akron and the way that sports complex was managed by us, and again, win-win, as Mr. Neal said, with the city of Akron and that organization. We made it work, and hopefully those kids got a lot out of it, and will come back to coach or do whatever someday, volunteer. So with no other items coming before us, this meeting is adjourned.
Our next committee of the day is the Public Service Committee. Those committee members are Mosley, Kamer, Holland, Lombardo, and McKittrick. If we could give everyone just a moment here to turn on their cameras or move to their seat. Thanks so much. Madam Chair, you have all members present except for Councilwoman Holland, whenever you're ready.
Okay. If I could call public service to order, if I could get a motion approval of our previous meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. First piece coming before us is an ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of East Market Street between the termini of High Street and Interstate 76 by resurfacing and declaring an emergency. Mr. Leto?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of committee. Yes, this is the last piece of legislation for this stretch. This is a resurfacing project that's been funded by ODOT. The 3.5 miles of resurfacing basically from the hospital all the way out to Ellet. This will be a resurface, restripe. We sent all the notices out for assessments. We had no objections, so there was no hearing. So this, like I said, this is the last piece to give you a little update. We've worked with ODOT. This is an 80-20 project. We will be managing this project. With the timing of the funds released, we won't bid it till later this fall, and the construction won't happen till early spring of 2024.
Okay. Are there any questions from committee members? Councilman Lombardo?
Thank you. Just questions for my education. So when you set out, this is a, East Market Street, so main drag, business drag. So when you send out letters, that goes to the businesses?
Goes whoever the property owner is on the tax record,
Okay.
yes. So it'd be the hospital. The farther you go out, there may be some residential
Yeah.
here and there.
Okay.
And it just goes by front foot.
Yeah,
So,
property owners,
yeah.
okay.
So
And then-
no one objected, so we had no hearing.
Good. And then when it comes to ODOT playing a role in our resurfacing, I guess, not how do they get involved, but like, how, like when it comes to Talmadge Avenue, all those main drags, they're involved, but they wouldn't get involved in any other
Just state
residential
routes.
streets?
Just state routes.
State routes, okay, that's why they're involved, okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from committee members? Councilman Fusco?
Yeah, thank you. I'd be remiss not to mention, we do have a meeting set up for the first Tuesday in September, I believe, the 5th of September, piggybacking on the Neighborhood Network and their meeting. And I'd like to thank Mr. Ludlow and his team and everybody from the city side, planning, and everyone for willing to take the time out and to go out and meet. We're going to be discussing the restriping primarily about. Is going to be a big piece of that, as well as that one piece that's on our agenda, and that's the overlay that's been discussed for some time. So we're going to bundle that meeting together with also a little bit discussion with the homeless, but also the well is going to be a big part of that, the neighborhood network. So bringing those folks, those businesses especially, maybe not necessarily property owners, but business folks. So that's just wanted to shout out to the city folks for working with me and Sharon Connor and Tara on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's your pleasure, Mr. Little?
Consent's fine.
Can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent.
Second.
I have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next piece is an ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of Miller Road between the termini of Ridgewood Road and West Market Street by resurfacing and declaring an emergency. Mr. Little?
This is basically the same. This is just under a mile resurfacing from the expressway there as you exit on at Ridgewood. So it's Miller Road from that point all the way to Market. This is actually a split project with Fairlawn. The total project is just under $500,000, and our portion is about, I think our portion's only about $60,000. Not even that, it's like $40,000. So that part of Miller Road, it's half of the road is ours, half of the road is Fairlawn, but the last third is all Fairlawn. So they're picking up a portion, and a big portion is this is another AMAT's funded project. So this is same timing. It won't be bid till fall, and it'll be resurfaced in the spring. And we had no objections, same thing. There was no hearing held.
So on the UCR, you said half is being funded by us and half is being funded by someone else?
Well, the funding was $364,000, which was an AMAT's funded. GEO from us was $22,000. Special assessments is just under $16,000, and Fairlawn is $77,000. And STG is a Surface Transportation Block Grant. It's through AMATS.
Okay. On the UCR, can we get an updated one? There's nothing on there. It's just completely blank, at least on the ones that I have printed.
Yeah, I mean, this was just the assessment piece, but
Okay.
we can get you,
Okay,
because you
good.
passed this legislation a while ago, but we can
Okay.
get it to you.
Okay, if you could. Any questions from committee members? Any questions from council? What's your pleasure, Mr. Little?
Consent's fine.
Can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next piece is an ordinance determining to proceed with and levying special assessments for the improvement and maintenance of the off-street parking facilities in the Kenmore Business District and the Kent Road Business District and declaring an emergency. Mr. Little?
This is our annual assessment legislation for the two business districts that the property owners pay, and it's just the true cost. It's the landscaping, it's the snow removal that we provide, and with with not a lot of snow removal last year, their cost did drop, but the assessment rate's the same, so it's per. So just the annual, and there was no objections to this either.
Okay. Any questions from committee members? Any questions from council members? Seeing none, what's your pleasure?
Consent's fine.
Can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next piece is an ordinance authorizing Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with the Akron Energy Systems LLC to perform assessment management and field services at Akron City-owned operated facilities and declaring an emergency. Mr. Little?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of committee. This contract we are signing here with Akron Energy Systems, it's been a while coming, but we've partnered with them on a lot of things recently in the last few years, and what they're going to be doing is providing HVA services, not only for the asset management, but also the ongoing maintenance. So they'll be doing routine maintenance, to these air conditioning systems, these furnaces, changing filters, doing the cleaning, doing the preventive maintenance to extend the life. But they're also doing a resiliency plan for all our complexes. There's 62 complexes they'll be doing between community centers, fire stations, Stubbs, Greystone, this building, going on to Ocasek, Canal Park, So like I said, there's 62 facilities. They'll be doing all the preventive maintenance and all the predictable maintenance moving forward. We had numerous contracts with contractors. Some did a few of the community centers. They may have did 1 or 2 fire stations. We're putting everything under one umbrella. We're trying to make a capital improvement plan, what's going to be needed over time. We've taken, and it's going to take a few years to get this under wraps, but we're always bringing you something. The air conditioner failed at this community center. It's an emergency. We got to replace it right away. So this is going to help us predict this maintenance, put it in the capital budget. We will be able to bid this work moving forward instead of everything being an emergency. What they're also going to help us do is the LED upgrades. They're going to help us making those recommendations at these buildings, at these community centers, at these parking lots. This makes sense to change these lamps out to LED and how to do it. They're also going to be looking at the roofing systems. They're helping us with not only that, but also the maintenance of these facilities. We've been struggling a little bit the last few years with our insurance company on timely matter of just testing, whether it's an elevator system or doing that ongoing maintenance, but also our fire protection systems. Some of the things that they can do is they can do those testing that doesn't require a testing like a communal. If it does require somebody like that, they will help us bid those things and get those systems tested and make the necessary improvements to those, so we'll be in compliance with our insurance company. So this has been a while coming. This legislation will help us achieve that. We think it's the best way to move forward, and it's going to be the best for the city in long term.
Okay, all right, thank you. Quick question on the breakdown of the source. Can you send me something, let me know how much of the funding is coming through ARPA?
I can get it for you. I don't know exactly what that is. I'll get, I'll get that ARPA money number to you.
All right, thank you.
I
Any
don't wanna
questions
say-
from committee members? Council? Seeing none. What's your
Consent's
pleasure?
fine.
Consent, can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent?
Second?
We have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next piece is an ordinance authorizing Director of Public Service without the formality of publicly advertising for bids to enter into a contract or contracts with Burgess and Nyepel, Inc. for professional engineering services for an Akron water resiliency plan update and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of committee. We've talked about this for a few years, but we're talking about our water system, our water plant, and doing a resiliency plan in the event that we would need alternate water sources. So we've met with Cleveland. I believe we've met with them for 4 different times now, Emily Collins and myself. We've gone up there twice. They've come here twice and met with their administration, also with our water staff. And what we're looking at is Burgess and Nyepel will do this plan. They will update a plan that was previously done, I think, for Cleveland. And what they're looking at is the hydraulics of what it would take to get water from Cleveland down here in the event we would need water as a backup. So they've used them in the past. We've used them in the past. We agreed on this company after looking at a couple different proposals, who would be best fitted to do this project. So we both settled on Burgess and Nyepel to do this analysis for us and what it would take in the event we would need Cleveland water. So this is the first step in see if this is feasible to do.
Okay. Any questions from committee members? Any questions from council? What's your pleasure, Mr. Leto?
Consent's fine.
Can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent.
Second?
I have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next piece is an ordinance ratifying the actions of the Director of Public Service in contracting with M. Miller Construction Company for the emergency repair of a sanitary sewer lateral within the city's right-of-way at 1067 Schumacher Avenue, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency. Mr. Little.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, this past Christmas, during Christmas week, we received a call from this address, and they weren't able to use their facilities. It was backing up in the basement. We went out and did some checking. Our sewer in the street, which is 25 feet deep, was fine, but what we found was their lateral in the yard was broke, and it needed repair. Actually, not in the yard, it was in the street. The line was broke. We had to hire H.M. Miller as an emergency. Our equipment doesn't allow us to go down 25 feet deep. So they repaired the lateral. They came back in the spring and they restored the road. They had a temporary patch. We just received the invoice here just recently, so that's why we're bringing it in now to pay them for work they did basically in December.
Right. Any questions from committee members? From council? Can I get a motion for suspension of rules?
I'll make that motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next piece is ordinance authorizing Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts with Shook Construction for emergency repair of the Bounce Innovation Hub due to a water line break and declaring an emergency. Mr. Leto?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. Yes, sometime early in the morning on June 4th, which was a Sunday, Vigio Gardens, which is on the third floor of Bounce, had a pipe burst, and it caused flooding damage all the way down to the first floor. Bounce had called in Servpro to do the initial remediation, get all the water picked up, bring in dehumidifiers. There was quite a bit of damage, not only to the IT rooms, but the event space. So the one elevator did get water damage. We're still waiting on estimates there. This legislation, we anticipate shouldn't be this much, but we're putting in this price just to cover all our bases. We are working with not only our insurance company, but also Vigio Gardens Insurance Company. So we're trying to get this, we'll get this legislation in, we'll get these contractors paid, we'll get them back opened up, and so they can resume their services. But like I said, we are working with the insurance companies. We are working with AES, who's with the previous legislation. They've got some recommendations on, we should probably put in some water sensors. Vigio Garden, as you know, is they have the lettuce operation. They have a lot of irrigation in that building. So do some water sensors on the floor that would sound an alarm. Maybe we could have some water solenoids, as they're suggesting. If you have higher water flow, the water could be shut off remotely. But at least the alarm, somebody could check it out. If it's in the middle of the night, no one's in the Bounce facility. So with that, I will take any questions.
Okay, any questions from committee members? Council? Can I get a motion for suspension of rules?
I'll make that motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. We have nothing else coming before us. We are adjourned.
Our next committee of the day will be the Health and Social Services Committee. Those committee members are Amobian, Freeman, Baylor, Neal, and Holland. We don't have a quorum yet, and it's not quite 2:30, so we will begin that meeting in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Chair,
Yes,
how many people do we have present?
we just have 2 right now.
Just Mr. Freeman and myself?
Correct. Councilman Neal, it looks like he has joined the Zoom meeting, but he has not. Here he is. We do have a quorum now, if you're ready to get started, Madam Chair.
Yes, please. Do a roll call, please.
Sure. Amobian,
Present.
Freeman,
Present.
Baylor, Neal,
Here.
and Holland. Okay, you don't have Councilwoman Baylor or Councilwoman Holland, but you do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. May I have a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting, please?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved. I see that we have one item before us today. It's a resolution approving and confirming the appointment of Marco Somerville to the Suffolk County Combined General Health District Board of Health for the 4-year term ending December 31st, 2026, and declaring an emergency. Do we have any comments or?
Chair, Gert Wilms on behalf of the City of Akron. I have had the opportunity to speak with Mayor Horgan on this. Mayor Horgan actually had an opportunity to speak with incoming mayor, potential mayor Shamus Malik on this appointment. They are both in agreement for the reappointment of Marco Somerville to this position. I believe Marco's reputation would stand for itself. He is absolutely an advocate for the City of Akron and can definitely point out where there might be some concerns in the minority community sitting at the table, taking a look at this and really advocating on behalf of the citizens of Akron, as he does in most areas where he is on behalf of Akron. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion to?
First, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Neal.
Yeah, just want to get a little bit more insight on this board, and its responsibilities, and if it's a paid board seat.
Mr. Neal, all good questions. I would have to get you that information.
Okay. Because what I'd like to do, I know health and wellness has become a growing initiative in our community as we become more educated, not just mental health, but we've had what they call out in the community infant vitality.
More time.
And of course, we're talking about the COVID pandemic, so health is a big issue. I'd like to see what this board's responsibilities are, so we can line other advocates that could potentially fill this seat when Mr. Somerville moves on, because not dating, but we know he's not going to be around probably after this term, so we can have someone next in line from the, I like using the term minority community, but if most issues we're talking about are impacting the black community, we can have somebody in line for the black community that's doing the work right now to take that position after he leaves.
Well, Mr. Neal, it is a Summit County board. So it is,
I understand, but knowing that we moved our health department over to the county, I'm sure the reason why they're seeking someone like Mr. Somerville is to represent this demographic, this community.
Any other questions or concerns? Are you requesting that we put this on consent agenda, Mr. Neal?
No, we don't have to hold it up.
Okay.
But I'll say I would like more understanding so that what we can educate citizens that these opportunities are there so they can put them in a position to apply for it.
Sure.
I don't know how open the process was.
Chair, consent is fine for this.
Consent is fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. May I have a motion for consent, please?
Motion for consent?
Second. It's been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. We are now adjourned.
Our next committee today will be the Public Utilities and Green Committee, and it will begin at 2:45. Those committee members are Freeman, McKittrick, Connor, Mosley, and Holland. Again, that's the Public Utilities and Green Committee, and it will begin at 2:45.